often say to me, "You're such a poor judge of character, you're bound to marry some bum," he said. So be sure you get a good education so you can support your children. So with this going on at home, I thought perhaps I would not announce that I wanted to write books for a living. Even at that tender age, I realized that this was sort of financially iffy. And so instead I went into science. I liked science, I was good at it, I enjoyed teaching and research and so forth. I actually have 3 degrees in the biological sciences and an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters that they gave me because they wanted a free commencement speaker. In the flesh, we were on a stage together. I had known him quite well for about 6 months electronically, but we hadn't known each other in person that long. But we were doing a panel in Los Angeles in front of 2,500 fans, and they allowed the fans to ask questions during the panel. And one person had asked the panel, what are you most looking forward to seeing filmed? And they had various answers, but they started at the far end, and before they got to me, the conversation had shifted somewhere else. So I didn't answer, but it made me think, what am I interested in seeing? Anyway, a few fans later, someone came up and asked me directly, what would I most like to see filmed? Well, when they had time to think about it, I leaned forward and I said to Sam, I said, well, I hope you will take this in the spirit intended, Shooks, but I really want to see you raped and tortured. A certain amount of fallout around that. People going, who would say such a thing? I said, you have been reading my books. Evidently, not closely enough. What I meant is what most people actually assumed that I had meant, which was that I had, at this point, seen everything that Sam had done that was on film. And I knew him for an extremely flexible and deep actor. I knew what he could do. He'd been in very small parts for the most part, so he didn't get to show that part of himself very often, but I'd seen it, and I knew what he could do. Now, that particular material is the most intense, demanding stuff that an actor could do. And, do I want to see someone do something, that demanding as well as it could or should be done? I don't want to see that. Yeah, and they did it. Because we evolved as both predators and as prey. You see something wiggling in the leaves, it might be a lizard you can eat, so you look. You hear something rustling in the leaves behind you, maybe something's going to eat you, so you look. But that means that we are hardwired to look at anything that's moving, no matter what it's doing. This is how TV works. This is why people sit there and watch reality TV, it's because it's moving. There's no other reason for a lot of it.
Terrific questions from the audience. I'd love to get to as many as possible. We just heard that your husband is 6'4", red-haired.
Yeah.
Does he have a knife-thin nose by any chance?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
When he sees Sam Hewitt in profile, he says, every time I see that guy, I want to grab his nose and pull it out another inch.
Well, this woman says, my husband is I'm guessing it's a woman, I'm sorry. My husband is ever so slightly jealous of Jamie Fraser. Is yours jealous? Or is he Jamie himself?
Well, he, as I said, I didn't tell him what I was doing when I was writing the book. He discovered this by accident at one point. But we didn't read it until I got back what are called galleys. That's a bound galley is like a very cheap paperback that they send out to reviewers. So anyway, he sat down to read it. At this point, he was about halfway through, and he said, this is a great story. He said, I love it. He said, I can't help noticing that this hero of yours is very tall with red hair. And I said, well, it's true. You're Jamie Fraser's body model from the neck down. So, in fact, he says that I steal all of his best jokes for Jamie, which is true to a point. And romance section. And so I resumed saying to store managers, he's gay, there's no heroine, there's no heterosex, what are you thinking? And again, they said, well, this is what New York thinks this book is, so that's what we have to call it. So I got fed up with this in the course of a long book tour. Toward the end, I just called up my editor and said, look, I've had it. I'm not going into another Barnes & Noble as long as they're putting that book in the romance section. So, cancel all the drop-in signings you have for the next 2 days, I'm not going. So she did. And at this point, I said, what do I have to lose? So I went home and I wrote this very rude letter to Steve Riggio, who was the CEO at the time. I said, "Dear Mr. Riggio, I'm assuming that you recognize my name since it shows up at the top of the New York Times bestseller list with you pressing regularly." I said, "I'm assuming that you're familiar with my books since they occupy a large quantity of real estate in your stores." I said, "I'm assuming also that you've heard of a bookstore chain called Hastings. It's a smaller chain in the West, about 250 stores." I said, "It's not Barnes & Noble, but it ain't chopped liver either." I said, "I'm assuming you don't know that Hastings sells 40% more of all my titles than you do." I said, "I do assume you'd like to know why this is. It's because they're not putting them in the epic romance section."